life keeps forcing cruel choices.
One of these endings destroys an entire world.
I'm sorry.
The other traps a man in a life he's begging to escape from.
Unpaint me. Unpaint me.
The hardest part about Expedition 33's final choice isn't picking a side, it's deciding which arguments actually matter.
This is not worth your life.
What about Lune and Ciel and Monoko? What about Esquier?
Because this debate isn't just about who lives or dies, it's really about what counts as life in the first place.
Gustav lives on in other ways, right?
So instead of telling you what to think, let's strip this choice back to the evidence and figure out what really holds weight. This isn't about finding the right answer. It's about understanding which arguments should matter, so you can apply your own moral framework to them. I'm sure you're already aware of the endings by now. If you're like me, you have already spent hours watching reactions validating your own tears. Choosing Verso destroys the canvas, every painted being and the remnants of Verso's soul. Afterwards, during a remembrance for Verso, we see the family convene at his grave and there is evidence of some resolution between them. Maelle, cuddling Verso's Esquier plushie, remains, saying goodbye to our friends as they gommage in the wind. Conversely, choosing Maelle preserves the canvas. Everyone is resurrected and the world continues, but painted Verso remains trapped, even if this will ultimately cost Maelle her life. Clearly there are a few key topics here, but it all funnels into one crucial decision. What matters more, the lives within the canvas or those out of it? I cannot make that decision for you or tell you the right answer because really it all falls to your own ethics. However, I do want you to make an informed choice, so let's break down these topics and identify what the evidence tells us about the world. At the epicenter of this quandary is Verso himself. If you believe painted beings are not truly sentient, an argument I'll delve more into later, then Verso's opinion on his own life shouldn't actually hold that much weight for you. Instead, we need to focus on painted Verso's and Verso's soul's perspectives, the latter of which appears very conflicted. During the final assault on Lumiere, where we come across the young boy a few times, essentially he argues both sides for himself, grappling with what he wants and what he wants for his family. Now, regardless of sentience, painted Verso is an accurate copy of Verso de Sandra himself. We know this from analysing the behaviours of Renoir and mirrored Renoir, an area I've already explored elsewhere. Aileen made excellent, true versions of the de Sandra family, so what they reflect is what their outer canvas selves also believed. This angle is how we can then truly interpret Verso's soul's desires, as well as one of the drivers behind Verso's unpainting request.
Unpaint me. Unpaint me.
Even if you do not think painted Verso's actions and lies are justified, he still accurately represents Verso.
You're tired of painting, aren't you?
They are tired.
I'm tired too.
The other side of the coin is Maelle. Now, she definitively exists outside the canvas, so her opinion on how she wants to live her life has substantially more weight. An interesting point to note is that she is 16 in the canvas, but we actually have no evidence of what her age is outside the canvas. It's easy to assume 16 in, so 16 out, but that's not definitive. So any remarks on age of consent are actually fairly limited in application. Moving past that, the next barrier that needs to be considered is how much does her paint outside the canvas influence you? We only have her account of both her physical and psychological torment, so it is up to you whether you believe Renoir in that
Child, it will get better. promise you.
However, even if you don't believe in sentient painted beings, there's still no escaping the emotional bond Maelle would have with the people she spent 16 years with, mourning multiple families, and then your brother.
I can't lose them either.
These are real experiences to her
I've lost too much.
that can't be washed away just by questioning sentience. They can't be easily replaced with the stroke of a brush. Now, one of the biggest arguments. Just repaint everyone in another canvas. This just doesn't hold up to any scrutiny. First is the issue of capability. Maelle is the weakest painter in the family. She only just got a small painting approved to the wall by her mother. Therefore, she wouldn't be capable of creating exact copies like Aileen can. But this is not just about skill, but also about identity. If, like me, you believe that the beings are created from the soul of the canvas, then their red petals, their soul, who they are, is tied to the canvas itself. This identity soul link is something I've discussed extensively in my petal colour guide. The link I'll pop in the description below. This, though, is why Maelle can bring back Lune and Ciel, but not Gustave. She extracted their chroma while escaping Lumiere, but Gustave's chroma is lost. She never collected it. They are more restored than repainted. Therefore, their existence is tied to something much deeper, and even if they could be faithfully replicated, they would still not be the same people. Now, Aileen did not paint every Lumierean. The people have lives from before Maelle was even born into the canvas. Memories and experiences shaped them in their formative years, guided by people who lived their own lives. We know this is true as we see the effects of childhood on Lune in her adulthood, and we also see the impacts of how grief torments Ciel over the years. Maelle just does not know everyone's experiences from every generation. Which brings us to the biggest issue of them all. As we move into philosophical territory, it will become harder to separate evidence and interpretation. It is important to not conflate sentience and realness. Sentience is not questioning the latter, but more determining if they are self-conscious. It questions if they have the capacity for subjective experiences. The game consistently presents them in ways that align with this. Everyone is full of experiences, memories, relationships, and they all can suffer. Additionally, no one challenges the sentience of the painted beings, nor does anyone directly challenge their realness, even with ample opportunities to do so. The closest you may have is that the young boy states the paintings are real to him, but not his sister. But this is just a child's opinion on someone else's beliefs. Claire herself does not ever really address this. She does see them as derivatives, as corruptions, but she does not challenge their realness in any tangible way. She only refers to them as painted copies to dismiss any illusions that it's the real Verso in there.
You're as bad as Aileen. He's not Verso. He's a painted copy built from our mother's memories. You do well to remember that.
Even the Lady of Sap, an incarnation of Claire, does not say she's destroying things because they aren't real, so it doesn't matter. It's because she sees the actions on the canvas as acts of corruption, and she would rather it destroyed than witness its impurification. Claire isn't denying their life or sentience. She is denying their right to replace the family she lost. One more point on sentience. As I already said, not all Lumiereans are painted by Aileen herself. She is not there painting every pregnancy, and she seemingly does not pre-program everyone to act in a range of given ways. The population is self-sustaining, filled with people having the ability to make their own choices. their own mistakes. Making our way to the harbour in the prologue, we see Sentience in action. None of the people of Lumiere have repeated behaviours like they are bound by predetermined scripts. There is a distinct variety of philosophies, emotions, and conflict on display. Characters adapt and change their minds based on an evolving situation. They feel the joys and fear.
Fall back!
They feel the loss,
Knuckles. Broken.
with no indications of uniform or rigid responses.
We lost the Lumina converter, so...
It's okay, we can think about that later.
All the backups were destroyed by that man, but Expedition 32 will bring more. Their chances will be better. We need to prepare them. I should update our journals.
Hey. It's okay.
To say the painted beings are not sentient, the game would need to demonstrate that their actions are more predetermined, like a dialogue tree that everyone is bound by. We would need to see that everyone all reacts broadly the same way to the same stimulus. Consistently, the game shows the opposite. Now, this doesn't conclusively prove sentience in an objective sense, but it does mean the game gives no strong internal reason to deny it. However, sentience is not our final argument, because tied to sentience is something more philosophical that I believe drives whether sentience even matters. Renoir talks about pushing the boundaries of creation, which for most insinuates creating life. While the creation of life does indicate some level of sentience, this is not the philosophical concept to grapple with. A frequent argument I see is that the painters are playing God, and that in itself insinuates immoral or amoral behaviours. However, and it might sound harsh, but for me the playing God argument falls flat. You cannot play what you are. Now, that does not inherently excuse behaviours, but this does emphasise the actual underlying problem. Gods, in the face of overwhelming power, can forget the weight of their mistakes on their creations.
You painters. You just do what you want. You don't care how it affects the rest of us.
Does abundance reduce moral weight? When you can paint 1 million people in 1 million worlds, what's one more gamage? A being doesn't hurt less because it was created on purpose. Now, I'll share my choice and reasoning for that final decision shortly, but the most important thing for me is that you are better able to come to your own conclusions based on the evidence you are given, combined with your own moral fabric. That's what makes this game so special. There is no definitive answer, but a confrontation of consequences of whatever you value more. Consequences that might be a result of your own inability to say goodbye to people you have come to love. A result of you relating to anyone's motivations. Which consequences you choose to bear. You have to weigh up whose interests matter more to you, Maelle's or Verso's. You need to decide whether you believe the painted beings are sentient and if that is even enough for you. As much evidence the game gives you, that choice is still ultimately yours. And even if you sympathise with someone, yet choose against their interests, that's valid too. I can recap what the game tells you, but I cannot recap how you feel. That visceral feeling. It is what will ultimately drive your initial choice, even if you regret it afterwards.
Life keeps forcing cruel choices.
Grief often blinds us, and we make choices we can never take back.
This choice, this life or death choice, is just that. Different moral frameworks lead to different answers. I chose Verso. Mainly because I relate strongly to Renoir and what I would do as a father if my family's life or stability is in jeopardy.
You can hate me, but that's a choice I must make. As your father, I must look out for you.
I also believe the paintings are sentient, strongly empathise with Maelle's drive to keep her new family and the embers of her brother's soul alive. And I understand that Maelle does not want to return to a torturous life outside the canvas. But none of that really changed anything. It's just, I so strongly related to Renoir's devotion.
But you're not. You're not.
To try and do everything I can to make the best of the worst for my family and prevent them from falling further into despair. I think Renoir may have struggled with the action of gamaging people, but he has also had 67 years to make peace with it. For him, all those lives are not worth his remaining families. It comes back to that boundless creation. If they have made countless worlds, how sacred does a painted life become? Does value get weakened because we can just paint more? There is only one Aileen, one Clair, was one Verso. No matter how well you can paint and create exact copies and even use their own soul to give them life, it will never be them. Perhaps it's no longer just about life, it's also a question of scarcity. You only get one Verso de Cendre, and you can only have one place where a painted Verso exists, especially one powered by Verso's own soul. You can only have one place where Ciel exists, where Lune, Monoko and Esquier exist explicitly as they are. They all only exist in one instance. I pick Alicia, you might pick Maelle. There are more arguments and perspectives on this debate, I know, but I wanted to cover the more frequent positions I come across. I'm curious though, what matters more to you? I want to see where people actually land on this. There's also the interesting but not discussed conversation about levels of sentience. Are the sheep in a best cave equally sentient to the Gestrals? To Lune? Nevertheless, this is inherently a choice surrounding the sanctity and scarcity of life and sentience. Where you land is ultimately up to you, but at least now, hopefully, you have some evidence to back up your position. If you enjoy breaking down complex choices where the answer isn't obvious, then subscribe to make sure you never miss another analysis. If there's an argument you think I missed, didn't articulate well, or got the complete wrong end of the stick, then let me know down below. Hopefully, I'll see you next time.